Yes, good morning, viewers. This is your tutor again, and we are continuing with our series on overheads. And right now, what we are going to be talking about is how we are trying to assign those overheads we've incurred, which cannot be directly traced on a given output to a particular specific cost centers that where they are incurred. And we've seen how we can separate some of those costs into the fixed and the variable components. And now what happens is that when we find out those variable costs, we need to allocate them direct to where they are incurred, so that in the final process we can try to absorb them, as we shall see in the next videos. But here we said that we need to identify these costs or the overheads we've incurred with the specific cost centers. And we want to assign them. After identifying them, we assign them to the product. So because some of them they are part of the product cost, or they are part of the manufacturing costs. So we need to assign them to the product. But the only way we can do that is by going through these steps. And the first step, we said we first classify and we correct those overheads, and that's what we did in the first video, where we looked at the high-low, the least squares, and we separated those costs. But having separated those costs, we need to go to the next step, which is assigning these overheads to the cost centers where they are incurred. And what we need to do is, one, we select a base that's where they are going to be, that is appropriate, that can help us to assign them to that department or specific cost centers. We say a cost center can be a service center, a process center, or a department, or a production center. So when you are talking about these cost centers, we are meaning the production cost centers and the service centers, because we said that these service centers, they help us to support the production. So there are some costs we've incurred in the service centers that we need to allocate there. And in this term, we are talking about these indirect costs. So as we said, the first step was to collect and classify the overheads. Now what we are going to see is allocation and apportionment of overheads. What do I mean by allocation? Allocation refers to the process of assigning indirect costs to cost centers or departments. But don't forget that in these departments, we are talking about the production department and the service departments. It's only done, or it can only be identified with the cost center or department when those costs can actually be identified there, if you can really trace them there. Like, there are some costs that we can directly transfer them, that we can directly allocate, like the indirect material, indirect labor. Those ones we can just assign or allocate direct without using any common base, because for them, at least you can trace where they went, or on which part of the product they have contributed. You can see that they have contributed to this. So if, let's say, you've used indirect materials in the stores department, in the production department, let's say mixing department, and other departments, you allocate each as where it is incurred. And that's only applicable when we can actually identify those, or we can find those costs we've incurred to that certain department. So if you find that those costs you can't even know how much we've spent on a certain department, then we call in the apportionment. Now this apportionment, for it, if that cost you can't really look at how much is spent on a certain department, then we use appropriate bases. And these bases, they become our cost drivers, or what consumed the whatever the resource we are talking about. And having known those cost drivers, but remember here we are taking the appropriate ones, or the exact base that can help us trace a certain cost. So we use that base and we compare it with all the departments, including the service departments. Here we are not absorbing. You should get a difference. When you're absorbing, it means you are removing from, we only absorb in the production department, not in the service department. So when we are talking about apportionment, we are just distributing those indirect costs to different cost centers using an appropriate base. Why are we using an appropriate base? Because we couldn't allocate them to a certain department. And in doing so, we do it within the production and the service department. And the whole of that you are seeing, the allocation and the apportionment of overhead is called the primary apportionment. It is called primary apportionment because we are just getting the costs to the production and the service departments, not necessarily in the production. Because when we are transferring the service department costs, since the service department costs are just helping us to make sure the production is moving on smoothly, then when we are transferring those costs into the production, that's what we call the secondary apportionment. But as for now, we are talking about primary apportionment. Since we are just apportioning, it means we are only getting proportion, what went to this department, what went to this department, and what went to the other department, in terms of the cost and the total item or the total base that we are using to apportion. Okay, hope you have understood that, and you can read through the notes. And it says apportionment of overheads refers to the distribution or sharing of indirect costs, those are the overheads, by different cost centers using appropriate bases. So when you are defining apportionment, you make sure you put appropriate bases. That's what separates it from allocation. Allocation, we allocate because we can directly trace where those costs are incurred. As I said, in terms of, let's say, indirect material, indirect labor, and others. So when we are apportioning, the bases to be used are influenced by the nature of costs to be apportioned. If, let's say, when you're talking about the nature of the cost to be apportioned, it means what is exactly, what what are we exactly incurring? If it is electricity, then what can help us to trace electricity? Are we tracing the electricity in terms of the units of output, or we are tracing electricity in terms of the kilowatts? Remember, the unit of measurement of electricity is in kilowatts. So if the unit of measurement of electricity is kilowatts, it means then the base is going to be kilowatts, not number of units. So that's what we mean by the appropriate base. The purpose of allocation and absorption and apportionment, of overheads to the cost center is to ensure that all costs that cannot be identified with the cost center are directly linked to the cost center. And remember, with these cost centers, we said it includes both the production and the service department. So hope you don't forget that. Thus, allocation and apportionment ensures that all overhead costs are directly traced to the cost centers involved, like the production, that is the transformation, where the transformation takes place, and the service department, which is the supporting departments. So when you're apportioning overheads, what we use is overhead cost apportioned. It will be equaling to the total overhead. Total overhead, if let's say we've spent electricity 10,000, it will be that 10,000 over the total number of departments. Now we are talking about the departmental shares, what each department is taking. So if you want to determine for a certain department A, it will be, if let's say the total departments, they are A up to, let's say, C, then it will be the total cost of electricity over the total departments from A to B. What A is taking, what B is taking, what C is taking in terms of the kilowatts. Then we multiply each department cost. That is how many kilowatts each department is taking. Remember, we get the totals of the cost we've incurred. If let's say we've spent 10 million on electricity, it will be 10 million over the department shares. If let's say 20 units are in department A, 30 are in department B, and 50 are in department C. We add up, and when you add the 20 plus the 30 plus the 50, you get 100. So it will be the 10 million over 100 times what each department is taking. Hope you've got that. And I will not mix it with the absorption, because if I mix it, you will get confused. But it's almost the same. But here, let's first do this as for now, then we shall come and we talk about how we absorb. Here, having known each department what it is taking from the total department, then we can be able to allocate those costs to different departments. So we can now proceed to the next slide. And this slide I have arranged for you some bases, what we can use to allocate these costs. We are saying the apportionment is done with the appropriate bases. So some of the appropriate bases, we said electricity, the unit of measurement for electricity is kilowatts. This, they are saying kilowatt hours. You can put kilowatt hours, but you can just leave it kilowatts. Because you may find that they are saying kilowatts hours, you may find that they are determining the hours, and depends of the watts we've used, let's say in an hour. But for now, let's take that electricity is charged on the appropriate base. If this is the cost of electricity, if let's say we are spending 10 million, so we are supposed to determine how many kilowatts that are consumed by each department. When we get the total, then we shall get the total electricity we've incurred divided by the total number of kilowatts that are spent within the whole organization, including the service department and the production department. Then we multiply for each department. We see what cost is spent on each. This one you can talk about if let's say we have 10,000 and we are saying that these 10,000, an example we can use here. If let's say we are saying that we've incurred, let me try to put this one here. If you have 10,000 units, and they are telling you that you've incurred 10 million in the production. That you've incurred 10 million. It means if you want to determine what will be the cost of each item, it will be this 10 million divided by 10,000, which will give us a cost per unit of, when you remove this, it will be 1,000. It means this 1,000 is the cost per watt per each unit. So it is the same thing here. When you get the total number of the total cost of electricity, if let's say it is 10 million and you divide by the kilowatts, you will be getting how much is per kilowatt. Then having known, because you've got the total number of kilowatts that were used in the production, you will be able to get, because you will be able to get the cost that is spent to each department. Meaning that to get these total kilowatts that you spend in the whole production department, in the whole factory, or in the whole organization, it means you will get each departmental contribution, of which it will be that contribution you multiply by the 10,000. That's what we are meaning. So we said the electricity, let's lap this one off. Proceed with the building repairs, cost of cleaning, they are charged on the floor area. Of course, when you are incurring repairs of building, you are building what? If they have given a building, because when they are setting these questions, they set them in a sense that when they are giving you, they give you the cost they have incurred and they give you the different cost drivers. But for you, you have to select the one which is at least, which is appropriate. Like if let's say for the cost of cleaning, you may find that someone may just say that I'm going to allocate this cost on the number of employees. That one, it won't be a wrong cost driver or a cost base. But if there is a floor area, because what are you cleaning? You are cleaning the area, or you are cleaning a building, not, yes, we are using workers to clean the building, but what is the element that is consuming that resource we are saying? The number of employees, yes, we are using the number of employees. They are the ones we are paying, but they are cleaning the building. So the first portion that is taking the cost, it should be the number, the floor area, which is, because to determine the number of people who are going to be cleaning the room, you have to first know what is the size of the room. Hope you've got that. You have to first know the size of the room before you put in the number of workers. Then for depreciation and insurance, we said it is net book value. You know, depreciation is charged on the book value. Rate and rates. This one happens most of the times in urban areas. When you are renting in urban areas, they give them meters. They measure meters. That's you find that someone is renting, let's say on a second floor or first floor, but the unit of measurement, how they measure the room you are going to use, they measure it in meters squared. You find that square meters, how many square meters are you going to rent? That's how we can identify those costs. As you've seen that cost staff canteen, when you're talking about canteen, it's not what you see at, let's say, at a secondary school. We are talking about now employees, what they eat, not the building itself. That's why the basis of allocation, we are putting it on number of employees. And I hope you can be able to get that. So allow me stop here, and we are going to pick a practical question in the next video so that we can try to find how we can compute the primary apportionment using a standard paper. I'm using standard questions because I want you to get used to the questions and you know how they are set. Because if I set you my own examples, they are going to be very simple. And when you reach the question, the examination paper, you'll find it a bit hard for you to interpret. So that's the reason why I'm using question or standard papers. Thank you for watching. I emphasize that you guys should subscribe so that we see how we can help each other. Thank you for watching.